A history of trade disputes from tariffs to trade wars. For centuries, nations have sought to secure access to foreign markets for their goods and services. At the same time, they have often erected barriers to protect domestic industries from foreign competition. These barriers can take many forms, but one of the most enduring is the tariff, a tax levied on imported goods. Tariffs have been used for centuries to raise revenue and protect domestic industries. When multiple countries engage in escalating tariff battles, we call it a trade war. These conflicts can have far-reaching economic and political consequences, disrupting global trade patterns and fueling international tensions. From the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act of 1930, which deepened the Great Depression, to the recent U.S.-China trade war, these conflicts rarely achieve their intended goals. Instead, they often lead to higher prices for consumers, lost jobs, and economic uncertainty. By understanding the past, we can better navigate the complex world of international trade in the 21st century. The early American experienced tariffs as revenue and protection. From its founding, the United States grappled with the role of tariffs in its economic policy. Alexander Hamilton, the nation's first Secretary of the Treasury, recognized the need for a reliable source of government revenue. He argued that tariffs on imported goods could provide a steady stream of income for the fledgling nation. In 1789, Congress passed the Tariff Act, which imposed duties on a wide range of imported goods. This act, championed by Hamilton, aimed to protect American industries still in their infancy and to generate revenue for the government. The tariff became a cornerstone of American economic policy for much of the 19th century. Protectionists, like Henry Clay, argued that tariffs were essential to shield American industries from foreign competition. They believed that tariffs would create jobs and foster the growth of domestic manufacturing. Free traders, on the other hand, contended that tariffs stifled competition and hurt consumers by driving up prices. The Civil War marked a turning point in American tariff policy. After the war, tariffs remained high, reflecting the growing influence of industrialists who benefited from protection. Smoot-Hawley, a tariff that backfired. The Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act, signed into law in 1930, stands as a stark reminder of the dangers of protectionism. The act, named after Senator Reed Smoot and Representative Willis Hawley, raised tariffs on over 20,000 imported goods to record levels. Instead of boosting the American economy, Smoot-Hawley helped to plunge the world deeper into depression. Other countries retaliated with their own tariffs, bringing international trade to a standstill. The Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act serves as a cautionary tale about the unintended consequences of protectionist trade policies. Trade tensions with Japan, the 1980s. The 1980s witnessed another era of trade friction, this time between the United States and Japan. Japan's economy had experienced rapid growth in the post-war era, and its exports, particularly automobiles and electronics, flooded the American market. The U.S. trade deficit with Japan soared, leading to calls for protectionist measures. In response to these concerns, the Reagan administration pressured Japan to accept voluntary export restraints, or VERs, on certain goods, such as automobiles. The trade tensions between the United States and Japan highlighted the challenges of managing trade relations between major economic powers. The U.S.-China Trade War, a 21st century conflict. The U.S.-China trade war, which began in 2018 under the Trump administration, marked a significant escalation in global trade tensions. The Trump administration imposed tariffs on hundreds of billions of dollars worth of Chinese goods, citing concerns over China's trade practices, intellectual property theft, and forced technology transfer. China retaliated with tariffs of its own on American goods, targeting key agricultural products like soybeans. The trade war dragged on for 2 years, disrupting global supply chains and raising costs for businesses and consumers. In January 2020, the two countries signed a Phase 1 trade deal, which included some tariff reductions and commitments from China to increase purchases of American goods. However, many of the underlying issues remained unresolved, and the trade war continued to cast a shadow over the global economy. Have trade wars ever worked? The historical record suggests that trade wars are rarely successful in achieving their intended goals. While tariffs might provide temporary protection for certain industries, they often lead to higher prices for consumers, reduced competition, and retaliation from trading partners. In the long run, trade wars tend to hurt the very economies they are designed to protect. While trade agreements can be complex and require careful negotiation, they offer a more sustainable path to economic prosperity. Trump's tariff legacy: protectionism in the 21st century. Donald Trump's presidency marked a resurgence of protectionist sentiment in American politics. Trump's America First agenda challenged the post-World War II consensus on free trade, arguing that decades of globalization had hollowed out American manufacturing and cost American jobs. Trump's tariffs, particularly those imposed on China, represented a significant departure from the free trade policies pursued by his predecessors. While the long-term impact of Trump's trade policies remains to be seen, his actions have undoubtedly shaken up the global trading system. Some argue that his tough stance on trade was necessary to protect American interests and address unfair trade practices by countries like China. Others contend that Trump's tariffs have backfired, harming American businesses and consumers while failing to achieve their stated goals. They argue that his protectionist policies have alienated allies, damaged the global trading system, and ultimately made the United States poorer. Only time will tell what the ultimate legacy of Trump's trade policies will be. However, one thing is certain: his presidency has reignited the debate over free trade versus protectionism, a debate that is likely to continue for years to come.